Hello, and welcome to the Comic Book Club. I am your host, Jamil Payne, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Amanda Coney. Amanda, how are you doing today?
Aloha, I am doing great.
Okay, so today we are talking a couple of things. We are talking The Killing Joke, and we are talking the Joker movie. After I've told everybody, we're not discussing the Joker, written by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo, because one of us didn't read it, but it's okay. We'll read it on next week's show. We'll devote a little bit of time to it. It's fine. So, Amanda, we've had a bit of a break because we recorded early last time. So, what you been up to besides your trip to Hawaii that we just talked about? So, we don't have to retread that. Anything else?
No, I mean, I've been really busy at work. If you want to know about assumption setting for term life insurance valuation, I could talk about
Alrighty then,
that,
enough
but,
of that. So New York Comic Con is happening right now. Not a lot of comic book news came out, but they did have a new Picard trailer. Have you got a chance to see it?
I have not. I have been busy looking at term mortality impacts on.
Well, look, I'm gonna spoil it for you. Riker and Tori is in it, so.
I think we knew that it was. I think we knew that, but
No, but
I'm
to
glad
actually
that
see them, see them.
Yeah, they're in it.
Yeah, and so they got Brett Spiner is playing Data or a version of Data in there.
Yeah.
And man, even with that makeup, he is old. Brett Spiner has like sort of you used to have like sort of a long angular face a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's really kind of puffy now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, you're old. Like you can't help it, but it's just he is supposed to be like this ageless automaton, and clearly this automaton has aged. That's. But no, the movie looks great. The TV show looks great. Is there any other news that came out there? Spider-Man is back in the MCU.
Yeah.
That happened while we was gone. Like, I'm not surprised by that whatsoever. Like, are you was you shocked that that this only lasted a couple of weeks, like how some people predicted?
No, not at all. I mean, I wasn't going to start worrying about Spider-Man not coming back to the MCU until we got a Tom Holland Sony movie.
No, the people that makes me mad are the people that's they anti-Disney, but they don't say they're anti-Disney. Like, it'll be fine. Why? Like, there was such and such, like the entitlement. Like, no, this is not entitlement. That we like this version of Spider-Man. We want to keep this version of Spider-Man. That's not fair. Yes, it's kind of fan entitlement, but it's like the good type of entitlement. It's not like we hate this movie because it has an Asian woman in it. Like it's a type of entitlement. Like, hey, we enjoy this version of Spider-Man. Can you please keep giving us this version of Spider-Man and work out your differences?
Well, it's also a bit of frustration because people speak with their money, and this version of Spider-Man has made a ton of money. How could they not keep doing it? That's stupid.
Exactly. And people are like, it'll be fine in Sony hands. Like, but Sony by itself. And
see, I think that's why I knew it wouldn't work out, is the money thing, is because you don't walk away from a sure thing, and this version of Spider-Man right now is a sure thing.
And
you don't leave that money on the table.
But yeah, just people saying that, a Tom Holland Spider-Man Walt Disney will be fine. Like, maybe it will be. But we specifically like this Spider-Man because he is in the MCU and he gets to interact with all the other MCU characters. So it's good to see him back.
Yeah.
Let me see what else. House of X and Power of X been weird, but good.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. I just know that everyone's still really excited that going forward the X books are going to be different for a while too.
Yes, so I think that wraps up all the comic book stuff that's happened in the 3 weeks since we've last talked. Well, 2 weeks for everybody else, 3 weeks for us. Yeah, I think that's it. I think. No, so Amanda, we're talking about the Joker here.
Yeah, we're talking about the Joker.
So, what is your relationship with this character?
Okay, so I'm, as a filthy casual late arrival to comic books. Batman the Animated Series with Mark Hamill as the voice actor is kind of my go-to Joker character.
Right.
Followed maybe by the Cesar Romero version from the 60s.
Don't laugh at that. That's a great version of the Joker. I would never, ever disown that version of the Joker.
So I'm mostly familiar with him from, like movie and television versions and a few comic books that we've read, but I haven't read that much Batman. I mean, yeah, I don't. He's not. Joker isn't a character that I have a lot of personal investment in.
Okay.
So I know that sometimes, like when we saw the the Suicide Squad version, and a lot of people were making fun of just even like the promotional images. I was like, like the Joker's not like my friend. Like I'm not personally invested in how stupid he looks.
But you do recognize him as like, one of those characters, right?
Yes, he is kind of an iconic character. Even when you see him in all of those different forms, you still recognize like the Joker. There's something sort of like primal or like an archetype under there.
Controversial opinion. I kind of like Jared Leto versions of the Joker. I kind of wish they would have continued with that a little bit. Maybe in a better movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like updated gangster, like hip hop Joker. I kind of like that with like the gold or silver teeth and the cane.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to Rick Ross. I kind of in a better movie. You know what I'm saying? I love that version of the Joker. I get it. It's a far departure, but we're gonna get into this next episode when we talk about Joker. But yeah,
I think that I think it's interesting that like the different versions of Joker really say something about the version of Gotham that he came from too.
Right.
And so I think that like the Jared Leto version was more of like a Joker that comes from a modern city version.
Yeah, contemporary. Him and Harley Quinn.
Yeah. And I think that that's maybe what bothered people is that when most of your comic book friends are, most of the comic book guys are like 45-year-old white dudes. They're like, what's all this new crap? Like, why isn't Joker from like an 80s version of New York?
Well, and also, we're old enough now to like, yes, they'll use this version, but eventually it'll come back around to the original version. Well, something closer to the original version. If they would went with this version for 5 or 10 years, the next 5 or 10 would have been a completely different Joker from that one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm old enough now to where I've seen like 8 different versions of the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Or Transformers or whatever. Like these characters always come back around. Like, Superman didn't have red shorts in the comics for like 6 years. Mm-hmm. And then he got red shorts again, because that's just how all this works.
Yeah.
So, I'd be remiss to say if we didn't mention Jack Nicholson's Joker, which is like, at the time, I remember that being dark and gritty. Mm-hmm. But really, it's close. It's way closer to the Cesar Romero Joker than, but in a good way. I'm not knocking that. I love that movie. I love that Joker. You know what I'm saying? In fact, I probably think Jack Nicholson probably should have been nominated for like an Oscar. Maybe not win, but he probably should have been nominated because he gives a great performance as the Joker. And that Joker is more of a 1950 gangsters in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's also something, because those 90s Batman movies were starting to trend a little grittier. And I think that there's something really interesting about having the Joker bring an element of whimsy to sort of like undermine that.
Right.
And there was definitely like just a touch of that in The Dark Knight.
Right.
Where it was sort of like, the Heath Ledger like chaos was sort of undermining the Batman order. So yeah, so I mean, I just brought up this idea of like the Joker being defined by the version of Gotham he's from. He's also defined by the version of Batman he's against.
And speaking of Heath Ledger, Joker, what might be the greatest, well, we'll talk about it, but that might be the greatest Joker performance there is. Might be the greatest comic book performance that there's ever been, right? Like, that movie is so good, and people have talked about it ad nauseum. It's almost a backlash. It's almost a small backlash towards it now because it's so universally praised and loved. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything that...
Right. Like people are getting upset over like, people talk about this movie like it's a 10 out of 10, but it's a 9.5 out of 10 at best. I can't believe those idiots.
Well, the biggest backlash I've heard now is like against Christian Bale as Batman, who's great as Batman and Bruce Wayne. Like, oh, the voice is terrible. Like, yes, the voice is kind of bad, but everything else he does is great in those movies. I don't like it's like a weird like criticism. Like, the movie is great except for Christian Bale. Like, no, shut up. Like, he's great in those movies. Like,
Yeah.
So, the last thing I say, just as we just talked about all these versions of the Joker, and this is what I was getting at. In my opinion, there's no wrong interpretation of the Joker. However you want to play the Joker is the correct way to play the Joker, in my opinion. It's something particularly about that character, and actually about Batman in general, but particularly that character, that no matter how you interpret them, it always seems like it fits. Like, if you want to play him as a gangster, you can. If you want to play him as a chaos agent, you can. If you want to play him as a serial killer, you can. If you want to play him as a, hip-hop gangster type, you can. If you want to play him as gay, you can. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no wrong version of the Joker. Like, every interpretation of the Joker is valid, in my opinion, in some way or another. And that's a powerful thing for a character to be. Like, you can't change Superman too much. You know what I'm saying? You can't change Spider-Man too much. You can't... You can change Batman a little bit more, but even him, he's a little rigid in how you see him. But the Joker, on the other hand, can be whatever the hell he wants to be in the moment.
I agree with you. I think that's a really great way to put all of that, to explain why people are so excited about so many of the DC villains too.
Right.
Is that the sort of mythological DC heroes don't really have much room for interpretation, but that the villains do.
Yeah.
I was just feeling like that was a very like modern art sort of like progressive view to take on a character too.
Well, if anybody knows from the show, I'm nothing but progressive. 88 and 89, I think, is when the Joker, like between like the Dark Knight Returns, which came out like a couple of years before, but 88 and 89 are like banner years for the Joker. Because three major things happened with that character that, he was already like a legendary character, but kind of cements him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Killing Joke, where he shoots and paralyzes Barbara Gordon. Death in the Family, where he beats Robin to death. You know what I'm saying? And the Batman movie, like we just talked about. Those three things, coupled with like the Dark Knight Returns, like a couple of years ago, kind of solidified this character to what he is now in popular culture. Like, that's like, those like most villains only get one despicable thing that they ever do. You know what I'm saying? And they're defined by that one act. The Joker got two within a 2-year span, plus a movie. So, like, it's just odd to look at the 80s for that character, where, like, grim and greedy, like, became a thing. And, like I just said, the character of the Joker somehow adapted to that well better than almost any other character.
Yeah.
Now let's get into talking about Batman: The Killing Joke, written by Alan Moore with beautiful art by Brain Bolland. Written in 1988, it was a prestige format, single issue comic. It only ran. It's only 66 pages. The synopsis goes, according to the grinning engine of madness and mayhem known as the Joker, that's all that separates the sane from the psychotic. Freed once again from the confines of art. You know what? Screw it. I'm not reading all that. Look, y'all, it's the Killing Joke. We're talking the Killing Joke. So, Amanda, let me ask you.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Killing Joke?
So most of it, okay, it's funny because my reaction to The Killing Joke is very similar to my reaction to the movie, which I'm not going to talk about. I'm talking about the comic book. So I have two reactions. One is, so who was asking for this story? And why are parts of it the best thing I've ever seen? Both of those thoughts at the same time. So, I mean, like from a technical point of view, it's amazing. Reading it feels uncomfortable, which it's supposed to. Like, that means that the art is working. If I felt nothing, then it wouldn't have been done properly. I feel like a lot of the ideas it raises are important. Like the one bad day is a very interesting idea, but at the same time it's just sort of like, was there demand for this? Was there, like, where did this come from? Why? I guess that's just sort of my general feel of The Killing Joke.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, when I first read, when you get into comic books, right, and I got into it a little bit later, as a teenager.
Right. That is important to mention, is that, like, it's been 30 years since anyone's read The Killing Joke and hasn't picked it up knowing that it was The Killing Joke. Right. You go into this book being told how important it is already.
It's what they give you at comic book school. It's one of the first books they give you at comic book school,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This and Watchmen. These are like two of the first books they give you. You take a whole Alan Moore class, right? And these are the first two things they give you to read for the Alan Moore study. And so, like, I knew what I was getting into. And, like, first reading it, and being very new to comics, it was by far, like, one of the greatest comic books I've ever read. It's by far the best Joker story I've ever read. And that's how I felt at 14 and 15. 35-year-old me, on the other hand, still feels that it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But also very like, look, when you're 14 and 15, like, all the shit that happens in here, it don't bother you for some reason. Like, you just, you're a little fucking like hormone walking sociopath, so it doesn't bother you like as much. But reading it now, it's just like, oh, this is really fucked up. But what I think happens is that we have 30 years of stories inspired by The Killing Joke. So, I haven't read this in a while. It almost seemed cliched in a way. And it's no fault of the book, right? It's no fault of the book. But everything has just like Watchmen, like more other like Magnum Opus. It's just like everything we know about the Joker stems from this, for good or ill, right? Like, what I'm saying? I think this is the first book to really define that relationship. And in that way, it's really important, right? You know what I'm saying? Like everything plays off this book. Like we talked about the Dark Knight, right? The one bad day thing. They actually adapted that for the Dark Knight. That's pretty much what happens to Harvey Dent in that movie, right? He had one really bad day. And you can't tell me that's not like a Killing Joke thing. You know what I'm saying? The interrogation scene, that's from The Killing Joke. You know what I'm saying? Like not the exact words, of course, you know what I'm saying? But just like the characters having this one-on-one and just laying out their philosophies. All that is from The Killing Joke. Adapted it to the Dark Knight, which we all, like we said, love. You know what I'm saying? So, like the DNA of this comic is all through there. But now it's almost feel like, do you need to read it to get that? Do you need to read this particular book now to understand Batman and the Joker, because there's so many other books now after the Killing Joke that took its inspiration from the Killing Joke that has explored this in even more deeper like terms.
It's almost like the what we got from the Killing Joke was it was a seed that germinated and created a whole bunch of other things, other Joker interpretations, other Joker stories, other Batman stories. And when you go back and you look at the original seed, it's sort of like, like, did we really like did this seed really cause all of this? Did it really grow into all of that?
I think it did, but like again, like,
but it's like but like the seed itself isn't that interesting. It's just kind of like a little tiny turd that you stick in the ground, right?
Look, it's still interesting, man. But yes. Gee, look, I would not go that far.
but I mean, but that's the whole point. Is you look at a tree and you don't. An acorn's not really that impressive.
Right. Yeah, good point. I mean, look. We're about to talk about the Joker, like the movie in a minute. That borrows from the Killing Joke too.
Yeah.
So like, it's all there. Like it lays everything that we know and love about but everything we know about Joker and Batman relationship stems from this. The best thing I think to come out this comic book, and I think we should discuss it because I think it may not be a point of contention in this, is it gave us Oracle. Without this book, we don't have Oracle.
Yeah, I mean, great.
No, look, I'm gonna tell you something. We know in recent years there's been backlash against this book. Not backlash, but there's been talk about this book and what it does to the iconic Barbara Gordon. I want people to understand something. Back in 1999, Barbara Gordon wasn't iconic. Like, yeah,
I think that's known. Like, Moore asked if he could kill her, and they were like, "Please, like, no one's using her."
No. The exact words was "cripple the bitch." But no, I'm not talking about them. They knew that. But like, I read this like a week ago, right? So I went back and read all the articles about the Killing Joke from a couple of years ago, right? And I know. And every single one talking about how fridging, the fridging of Batgirl, the crippling of an iconic character, all the stuff they say about female characters, right? And like, there's something there. I'm not gonna say it's not, but people gotta understand something. Barbara Gordon wasn't what she became yet. She was just a Batman sidekick that they rarely use, and that they decided to retire like a year before this happens. You know what I'm saying? She was not a major part of the books. She wasn't what she is as we know her now. The only reason Barbara Gordon is so popular now, unfortunately, is because she became Oracle. Barbara Gordon Barbara Gordon became a far more interesting character, a far more three-dimensional character because of this tragedy. And I know people have mixed feelings about the tragedies, but we wouldn't have this Barbara Gordon Renaissance without this book.
I mean, I would argue that they could have just, started eventually having Batgirl again without this.
I mean, no, there's plenty of. I mean, there's been like 2 or 3 Batgirls since Barbara, who I think are better, who I think are actually better Batgirls.
Well, right, but the point is, you didn't have to do this to the one girl you had sitting around.
But my argument is the idea probably never would have came to you unless you did this. Like you get what I'm saying?
No. It is interesting. It's just the like the scene is not more disturbing because it was Barbara Gordon. If it had been any woman, it would have sucked and didn't necessarily need to be there.
I think that's what we differ. I like that they did it. I think sometimes this shit happens. Like you know what I'm saying? If you're gonna make Batman if you're gonna make Joker despicable,
Yeah.
The best way to do it is to cripple one of his, to fuck up one of his sidekicks. The fuck up one of his sidekicks and his main, like, besides Alfred, his connection to, like, humans, like Commissioner Gordon. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause like even like I never seen it. Like there are some. Look, put it this way, right? I notice it when it's just like one woman and something bad happens to the woman. And like I do notice those things. I never got that with the Killing Joke because like he's a villain. He's supposed to be despicable. She's a superhero. Well, she was retired, but she's a superhero. Sometimes bad shit happens to the superheroes by the supervillain. And like you know, this put a stake in it that's usually not in comics, especially at the time, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like this just wasn't a thing. Like villains did a whole lot before then, where they had like this defining moment, and like I think it's really powerful. But I get it why some people don't like it. I wholeheartedly reject the idea that he raped her because this book is very blunt. If he would have raped her, they would have said it. Oh, they would have said, because I don't think Alan Moore has no qualms about rape. That's just my interpretation of it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not that I'm glad that it happened, but I see no problem with it as a creative choice to shoot Barbara Gordon and cripple her.
I think that one of my concerns when a writer uses violence against women specifically to show how bad a bad guy is. My usual concern is just that it's so obvious, and that if they're a good enough writer, they can show us how bad they are without resorting to that. And I think that even within the context of this short comic, Alan Moore has shown that he can make the Joker terrible without having to do this, and then he does it anyways. So it's not.
Well, we should say he do regress remorse for doing this to Barbara, and like he said he doesn't particularly like this book that he written. He says it's not well written, but Alan Moore full of shit. So I don't know how to feel about what he says, because he also said in that same interview, like, it was up to him, it was too dark, and he'll take Batman back to like a 1960 Ditch Sprains type character, and don't nobody want that shit. So, but no, he's had expressed remorse for doing that to Barbara. But like, you know, if you're gonna try to drive Commissioner Gordon crazy, I don't see no other way to do it. Or if you're trying to drive Commissioner Gordon crazy and drive Batman over the edge, if that's your concept, right? If you start with that concept, right, the only person you can use is Barbara.
Right. But I guess the thing that I want to point out right now is you're talking about you're talking about the characters. You're talking about if the Joker wants to drive Commissioner Gordon and Batman crazy. But there's also a level here which is Alan Moore telling a story to the readers who aren't any of those people. You know, Alan Moore's choices as the writer are telling us something about life in general. And I think that's kind of where it falls. I think maybe the next time someone asks me about this book, this is maybe the way I'll phrase it, which is like, in the world of the book, it does feel right, like it does feel like it makes sense. But then when you try to step away and say, like, what is this like incomprehensibly cruel story trying to tell me? And it's like, it doesn't work now. Like, as Alan Moore talking to me, it doesn't work the same way it works as the Joker torturing Batman.
Well, I was also talking about the creative process, right? If Alan Moore's original idea was to drive Commissioner Gordon and Batman,
right, but those aren't real people.
No, I'm just saying, just from the creative process. I'm just saying from a creative process.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is that those aren't real people. We're the real people.
Right.
So in terms of the characters, it makes sense. But what was he trying to do to the readers?
Tell a good story. Like that's the thing. I don't know how to say this.
Yeah.
I don't try because I feel the same way about stand-up comedy because there's been a big argument about that. I don't try to prescribe too deep into a story.
Oh, I'm not trying to go that deep. I'm
Oh,
just
okay, okay.
like literally like I'm not trying to go like really, really deep. I'm just saying you're very, very focused right now on the characters' interactions with each other as though they're real people. And I'm just trying to bring your awareness to that because I'm like, there's another level here where like it is impossible to read this book as a woman and not have a woman's reaction to it, which is you're an asshole, you didn't have to do this. So like there is like the level of like the character truth, which I think more really hit. And then there's the level of Alan Moore is a guy telling a story to other human beings who aren't the Joker and aren't Batman. And I think at that level, it actually fails to achieve anything. It's just like this is a book that was life changing for Batman and the Joker as characters. But like, do you divide your personal life up into before and after you read this comic book?
Yeah, some people do. But no,
Most of those people suck. But yeah,
no. I get what you're saying, right?
yeah,
But also, this book is universally loved. This book is significant, and it did have that impact for a lot of people, and not just people that suck. Like I said, we just named a bunch of great art that curved directly from this book, and you're not wrong. Look, reading this now and seeing him strip her naked, that shit is fucked up, and it's really uncomfortable. Like I don't think the Joker raped her. I don't think they imply rape, but Elmore absolutely knew what the fuck he was doing.
yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? He knew that would raise the heckles on the back of people's neck because of what that could mean. But I will argue that's kind of what art is there for. And like depiction of women, I want to say depiction of women have gotten better in comics, but I don't know. I'm a bad judge of that thing because I like superhero women half naked sometimes. So, but like I do believe that the depiction of women in comic books have gotten better since then, and maybe it's a catalyst of that. Maybe he did go too far, and some people were just like, maybe we shouldn't go that far again. But then again, I could be completely wrong. But like, it's brutal. But like, it has come to define the Joker, right?
Yeah.
Like it has absolutely like in the way that he's supposed to be defined, as in he's not a character you're supposed to think is cool. He's a despicable bastard. In a lot of ways, it has defined Barbara Gordon. Some of the best comments about Barbara Gordon is her dealing with the trauma for this. And like, isn't that what you want from your art? If it's going to, even if that's not the direct intentions of this book, but if you're going to have like this type of long form storytelling, isn't this what you want from your art? Is that like for these things to have long lasting consequences? Not argue, but me and you agree all the time. Like we read these books and we love them, but we know like none of these choices, none of this shit will ever stick. Next issue, it goes back to status quo, right?
Yeah.
This book,
I mean that's powerful. You're right.
This book, on the other hand, all that shit stuck for decades. Not a couple of years, not 3 years, but for decades, this shit stuck. Even now, and isn't that what you want? Like, so basically, maybe they took something that could have been like just, oh, he's hurting another woman, and they made something great out of it, right? It defined the Joker. It defined the Joker as a despicable human being, and not just in the way of like, oh, he's killing random people. He's hurt somebody that we know and love, that we have a connection with on some level. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, it went on to define that character all this time. Same thing with Barbara. And I think that's what you want. That's the best outcome from this. And that's how you want your art to be, right? You just don't want it there for thrills and kicks. You want it to lead to something. You want it to say something. You want it to do something. And in my opinion, I think The Killing Joke does that. And even though I don't think it is great as it used to be, I still think it's pretty good, but I think that's what I'm sorry, I'm just talking a whole lot. Forgive me.
I'm happy to hear what you're saying about this, because you're not wrong. This mostly, I mean, I keep coming back to the idea of like I wouldn't be frustrated with this story if it wasn't well done. I would just feel nothing, right? Um, so yeah, I keep coming back to the idea of there's the comic book world and there's the real world, and like it just doesn't it as important as the story was in the comic book world, there's like nothing from this story that I want to take into my life.
But why do you need to take it into your life?
The best stories are the ones where you get an idea or a feeling and it changes who you are a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. And like this is like a story that like I read it and I'm like, okay, now I understand the backstory of the Joker a little bit more, and then I forget that it exists.
If it's the real bad story, you know what? You know what? We focused on this one part, right? Let's just talk about the book, right? And like, so what are some of the things that you do like about it?
The art and the layouts and the lettering and everything are just ridiculously efficient.
Right.
I mean, this is a fast book. And really kind of right in the 80s to 90s transition into like more modern style comics. Like this is a book, this is kind of like timeless. One of the aspects I really like is in the beginning, this sort of positioning Joker and Batman as sort of like each other's mirror image, each other's evil twins almost.
Right. I thought that was really cool. Like I've come here to talk. Unfortunately, It wasn't to the real Joker, but like I thought that was really kind of awesome. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that's one of those ideas that you were mentioning that gets carried throughout every interpretation of the Joker right now, which is this idea that he's defined in opposition to Batman. That they are each other's opposites, that they need each other, that they can't actually destroy each other.
Oh, I will say this. If people have problems, the one thing you don't do to try to make this story better is tack on the extra 30 pages and have Barbara Gordon have sex with Batman. That's one thing you don't do to make it better.
Oh yeah, the animated cartoon. I remember I was gonna say it wasn't with you. I think that the movie guys had me on with Jack to talk about that.
Yeah, I think so.
And I remember the only thing I contributed to that conversation was they're like, why did Barbara Gordon have sex with Batman? And I'm like, previous scene, she was upset and he brought her a latte. I'm like, she's just grateful for the pumpkin spice latte on that dreary Gotham night, you guys. If I was on the roof of a building in Gotham and Batman brought me a pumpkin spice latte, I would be like, right now, man. That's how you treat a woman.
Look. There's an argument to be made about like women fall in love with like their like their authority figures. Like there's a conversation to be. I don't want that in my Batman story with Barbara. Like there's too much baggage there.
I love how you're like, oh yeah, we can cripple the bitch, but heaven forbid she enjoy having sex in a Batman story.
Oh, tell me, I wouldn't say cripple the bitch. That's what the elders just said. I want to make that clear. I would never say that about.
I'm joking with you a bit.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, it's the internet. I want to.
Yes.
I want to get counseled.
To be safe too.
Huh?
I also want you to be safe on the internet.
Yeah, but no, but yeah, it's weird. It's just like no. Then like it's that extra bill of sleeves that's like his best friend's like daughter. Like
yeah,
like Batman don't come out looking good in this at all. Then like he just mostly disattached the rest of the time. It's just so fucked up. I'm sorry. Jesus.
No,
who thought that was a good idea?
I don't understand that at all. That was somebody involved in that project was just able to like they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna throw like my fanfic in front of this
Yeah,
classic."
yeah, that's what it felt like.
That's the only way anyone's ever gonna read my Batgirl fanfic is if I put it in front of the Killing Joke.
And you know me, as liberal as I am, I yell about liberals and them being too soft in this, and I don't see nothing wrong with them wrong with shooting Batgirl. But then it's that other side of my brain when that happened, like, oh, this is wrong. This is no, like this is wrong on several levels. Like then like they had like the stereotypical gay guy there. Like that's kind of offensive, isn't it? A drama. I'm like, oh no, no, none of this is right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I I mean, I did like sort of this idea of like the weird perversion of like the carnival.
Right.
A lot of that was interesting. I I was just okay with the backstory that we got for the Joker in this, and of course, it's ambiguous whether it's real or not.
Because if he want to have an origin, he rather for it to be multiple choice. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just okay. Yeah, I'm just okay with it too. I'm not like.
It's just one of those things where because we're so the Joker is such a great example of a character where the mature version is so interesting and has so much potential that like no one whoever asked where the Joker came from, no one. That doesn't make you understand him more because he's not something you understand that way. Like he's not something you understand as a like from point A to point B type of character.
Especially now in the more interpretation when he's not really a gangster and he is just more of a psycho like agent of chaos. Like
Yeah.
like that idea doesn't like the reason it worked in the 1989 Batman movie so well as like giving him an origin and have him kill Batman parents was that Joker is not as crazy as other versions of the Joker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right, right.
But like, I don't need to know where Heath Ledger Joker come from. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to know where regular Joker from the comic book comes from. So like, it does. I don't want to say it lands with a thud per se, but it just look. Nothing they would have did would have been interesting enough for us, right? There's nothing they could have did that would
Yeah.
have made. There's nothing. Like, I don't even want to say it's bad, because, like, I'm not even sure if it's bad. Because I know for a fact there's nothing he could have did where I'd be like, okay, that's a fitting origin for the Joker. There's nothing he could have did. Even Alan Moore couldn't think of a way for me to care about a Joker origin story.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. I guess this is the big question. This wasn't meant to be canon at first. Do you think Batman is killing the Joker at the end there when they both laughing?
No.
No. Okay. I don't think so either, but a lot of people think he is like choking the Joker to death. That's the killing joke. I don't think people expected us to like not completely love it, but we don't. We just think it's okay.
It's just fine.
It's just fine. Like, look, it's
no end game.
It's not. Don't you dare look. You send all those complaints to Amanda because I am not. I do not want that fight. It's an okay story punctuated by like really great moments. I think that sums it up, right? Like that sums it up pretty good. You think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was my first thing was I read this story and I go, who was asking for this? And then why are parts of this the best thing I've ever seen in my life?
Still recommend it. I would still recommend this book. I think it's too important of a book to not recommend. Okay. Speaking of Joker origin stories, let's get into the Joker.
Yes.
Amanda, I want you to go first again.
Uh-huh.
What did you think of Joker, written and directed by Todd Phillips?
So as I was watching it, I was Well, first of all, I actually avoided all trailers and most discussion of the movie leading
Good.
up to it.
Good.
I because I had absolutely no interest in it until I found out Joaquin Phoenix was in it. Because I, as I've said multiple times today, don't know who was asking for this movie or why it had to be made. And I felt that while watching it. And then parts of it were amazing. But I mean, I don't want to say I wish I hadn't seen it, but I wish I had been able to do other things yesterday, like read other comic books. And we can talk about this is something I'm very interested to hear your take on, but the way I describe the movie to my husband is that like sometimes when you're a woman and you go out and like a guy starts talking to you, you start getting like you start getting signals that you need to put your defenses up. Like this is not a guy I should like I shouldn't make eye contact when I'm talking to this guy. I should make sure I'm not alone with him. I need to start checking for like exits and ways to get out of this situation. This is like this man is like not even human. And all of those flags were kicking up for me the entire movie. And I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I sitting here experiencing a movie with that guy? What about you?
I didn't enjoy watching this movie.
Okay.
I think it is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It gave me a lot of anxiety. It is an ugly movie.
Yeah.
And I think I'll be watching it anytime soon. Also, it might be a masterpiece. Like that's the thing. I said all those things, and I mean them. But I also recognize how good it is. But I think I won't watch this again for at least another 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like I'm not. Look, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't like uncomfortable, right? You know, I've only watched like
that's why it's called uncomfortable.
I know, no, like that's why I don't watch like stuff like The Office or like Curb Your Enthusiasm because it's just a lot of like awkward
Cringe humor.
Cringe humor. Yeah, I don't like cringy, and this movie is nothing but cringe. Like it look, a clear inspiration for this movie is Taxi Driver. Have you ever seen Taxi Driver?
I haven't.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Taxi Driver, as we know, is considered a masterpiece, right? I've only seen that movie ever twice in my life. Out of all Scorsese movies, it's the only one I've seen the least, and it's considered like maybe his greatest movie. Why? Because the movie is so fucking uncomfortable, and it's the same thing. It's about some disinfected white guy, loner on the edge of society, that doesn't take social cues and do weird shit. And it all explodes in violence. And I remember watching it as a teenager and like, okay, I'm finally getting to watch Taxi Driver. I've heard everything about this movie. It makes everybody top 10 list. And I'm just like, ooh. This ain't for me. This is not for me. But I recognize why people like I can still like, you know, I'm not so far up my ass where I don't recognize why it's good, why it's considered great. But just for me, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I don't enjoy this. I just don't.
Well, and the fact that you don't enjoy it means that it was like well made at some level. Like art can make people uncomfortable.
That's what I'm saying. I think the movie might be a masterpiece. I think all the praise that's been heaped on it is actually warranted. It's just for me, personally.
It's not worth the discomfort.
It's not worth
it works too well.
Yeah, exactly. It works way too well for like, you know, for and look, what everything Todd Phillips attempted with this movie, he succeeded. He hit every mark he was supposed to hit for it. It's just for me, man. It's just, I mean, there's moments in this movie that I'll never forget. You know what I'm saying? Like when he kills, excuse me, spoilers for this movie, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
When he kills the guys on the train, right? and he goes running. He goes to the bathroom, and he starts like dancing, almost like a ballerina. There's something. There's a beauty in that. You know what I'm saying? There's a beauty because he just did this horrible thing, but for the first time in his life, he feels like himself. He feels like he's found his calling, and before that, you know what I'm saying, that's kind of the end of the first act. Before that, we just see him like just barely making it through life. So it's almost triumphant, but he just did this really terrible thing. But him dancing in that dirty, dingy bathroom with that pale green light, there was something beautiful about it. Like there's shots in this movie that I would never forget. You know what I'm saying? That I would take with me. But just overall, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the get away from this guy reaction was so immediate that I wasn't able to engage with a lot of things that they were trying to do in the movie.
Right.
Like, I was already like, no, like, I'm done with this guy. Like, I can't give any attention to this character because all of my real life defenses are kicking in.
Oh, look, all my real life defense. Look, I know people like that. I see, if this movie is nothing else, in my opinion, we always talk about how we just talked about how the Joker reflects the society that he lives in, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into the controversy about this movie in a little bit, but like, this movie shows what happens when you neglect your mentally ill.
Yes.
Cause something is wrong with him. Everybody knows something is wrong with him. Hell, even he knows something is wrong with him.
Yeah.
But nobody's willing to help him.
Yes.
Nobody is trying to help him, and they just shit on him. They're just mean to him, even when he's trying to be nice, like genuinely nice, right? He's just spell upon and kicked on, and like, you know, I won't get too deep in the mass shooting thing and all the mentally ill and gun control and all that shit. But in this time and age that we're living in, Amanda, there's a lot of mentally ill white men.
Yeah.
Walking around on this in this great state of Georgia and the United States as a whole. And like, there's something that needs to be done. And it's not just because they're all racist or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, clearly, some people need to be helped and they aren't getting the help that they deserve. And I think this movie speaks to that. Even if I personally didn't enjoy it, I see, like, I think this is absolutely a movie of its time. Even though it's trying to emulate, like, Scorsese movies and just 70 movies, late 70, early 80 movies in general. You know what I'm saying? But I think the actual message of this movie does speak to this time that we're living in.
In order to like, you know, feel something or get something from the movie, you need to be willing to engage with it, and I couldn't. Like, you know, I see what you're saying about, you know, the movie saying something about the state of what's available for people with mental health problems, but like,
one of the things,
you know, but like, that's the thing is, like, when I go to the grocery store and like some guy harasses me in the parking lot, I don't, like, that is not on me to go like take him to the hospital or something. Like, you just at some point have to let people go. And from the very beginning of this movie, I was like, I cannot think or care about this person as a person.
But I don't think you're supposed to care about him. I don't know, right? It is.
I think you need to be willing to like engage with him as a character.
Right. I will say, I hope they make more movies like this, because even if you can engage with it, I think we can all agree that it was bold and like it's something that it's the type of movie that doesn't in this age of this, like, being on like 3 major multimedia companies now.
Mm-hmm.
Movies aren't made like this on a large level. You know what I'm saying? Like, Warner Brothers wouldn't make a movie like this usually if it like Todd Phillips basically said, look, he wanted to make a movie like this. They wasn't gonna give him the money, so basically he just slapped Joker on it, right?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden he got the money to make this movie, and like even if you don't like the movie, and again, like I said, I didn't really enjoy this movie, so but like I want more movies like this to be made. I want more daring. I want more movies to be asking these questions and daring and challenging. And I think it's the one thing DC has over Marvel is that they're willing to take risk with their characters. You know what I'm saying? They're willing to swing for the damn fences for good or for ill, as we've learned.
I mean, I guess the thing is, so there are a lot of non-mainstream movies that do interesting things.
But that's the thing, though. That's the thing, though. We need these type of movies back in the mainstream. You're right. Look.
So I guess I'm just saying, like, I go see those sorts of movies all the time. I don't really, like, they're available and they could be mainstream. I just don't know really what stops them from being mainstream. And I think you're onto something where it's like they just strapped Joker on it and tricked a bunch of people into seeing it.
Yeah, like a lot of the like emotionally stunted nerds that I know that went to go see this movie is hilarious because they saying how good it is, and I guarantee you they don't understand shit in the movie. Like, are you familiar with Midsummer? Yes, I mean,
okay, so if they just called that Poison Ivy and tricked people into seeing it,
right?
Like that's essentially what we've got here. Is somebody took Midsummer and called it Poison Ivy, and then tricked way more people into going and seeing, interesting art house movie.
Exactly. And look, I'm a movie guy before I'm a comic book guy before anything. So like, yeah. I know back in the 70s they used to make movies like mainstream companies used to make movies like this all the time, and they don't anymore. It's too big of a risk. The audience ain't just up for it no more like they used to be. You know what I'm saying? So like even like I said, even though I don't enjoy this movie like other people have, just because of my own anxiety, I think more movies like this should be made within the mainstream. I really do. Because I think it's important. I think this movie is important for what it might start almost more than the movie itself.
No, I see value in that. Yeah, I agree. I want there to be more interesting movies, and I want us to trick more people into seeing them. I guess I'm just concerned. Like, is this movie getting a lot of good reaction? Like, are people actually coming out of this saying that they liked it, that they enjoyed watching it?
A lot of people I've seen said they like it.
Okay.
Look, okay, so. We should talk all the gospel of Rotten Tomatoes, right? But right now, I think Joker stands at a 69%. It was at one point. It was like a perfect 100. It was a oh my! What? Amanda call me, everybody. At one point, it had a perfect 100%. As far as it had 0% audience because the movie wasn't out there, and for critics, it had 100%. Now that the movie's been released, it has went down to 69, but the the audience score is way up. So I'm hoping people liked it. Okay. I seen it with a bunch of black people. Mm-hmm. I had one walk out of my theater, like one person like, I can't do this, and just walked the hell out. That was funny, but. And like I couldn't gauge it because I try to like when it's like a quote unquote white person movie or some white people shit. I sometimes I like to go see it with a black audience to get like black people engaged because sometimes black people aren't represented when it comes to tasting movies. You know what I'm saying? So I always want like a black person perspective, right? Okay. I can't really tell. Like nobody was talking about the movie when they came out. I can say that. Like. But there are a couple of times that they laughed. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when he goes back in and he hits the glass, they laughed at that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not for sure how. But everybody else I know that's seen the movie, like, really seemed to like it. So okay. I'm hoping people do like this movie. I know the critic score has went down. I have a theory behind that. because this movie did win like the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival, and it wasn't until it was at the Toronto Film Festival that people started calling it an incel movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's one of the reasons why I left Twitter again. Why I just took Twitter off my phone, because like people were shitting on this movie that most of them ain't even seen yet, right? You know what I'm saying? And people just having reactions, and like I guess do you know any of the backlash about the movie?
Well, I mean, now that you've mentioned incels, I can imagine.
So I'm gonna say something. You might find this funny. This movie is the Venn diagram where liberals and conservative white soccer moms finally meet.
Okay.
This is the movie where like they finally overlap, in my opinion. Because the things I heard about this movie, how like it's like it's sympathizing to white males and white psychotic males. It's gonna start shootings and all that shit. All that shit sounds like something an old conservative white woman would say. But it's all coming from liberals, and it's really fucking weird. Cause like, as a listener of rap music, right? I've been told my whole life that rap music was gonna make me kill people. I've been told my whole life that Grand Theft Auto is gonna desensitize me to violence and make me a sociopath and playing Mortal Kombat. You know what I'm saying? So like, I've always, to this day, reject the idea that a movie can lead to any type of that bullshit. Motherfuckers crazy anyway. They're gonna do crazy shit whether it's the movie or not. With that being said, this is kind of an incel movie.
I don't think I can argue with that.
But here's the thing, though. But this is what I'm talking about, though. Everybody making like incels are bad. Number one, that's a weird term, but that's the only term that they got for it now. Like, that's a new hip term, so I'm using it. But you know what, though? Maybe if you engage with incels, maybe some of them wouldn't be so incel-y.
But I mean, this is kind of what I was going at, was that sometimes when you start talking to a guy, you get the vibe that if you say the wrong thing, you're going to end up in his basement. And the first thing you do is you start looking for a way out of that conversation. That's absolutely the vibe I got from this entire movie.
I mean, he's definitely somebody. Like, I'm pretty sure he killed that woman and her daughter.
It's a public health issue, but it's very difficult to talk about it without making it sound at some level like Jordan Peterson-y, like if women just had sex with these guys, we wouldn't have to worry about it.
But yeah, it's kind of an incel movie. But that's the thing, though. Just because this movie talks about a deranged white man, I don't think it should not be made. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I'm never with that. Well, considering the time that it was made in, do you think it's appropriate to release this movie? And that's basically what everybody is saying, right? And I'm like, that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? There's never a right time. You know what I'm saying? There's never a right time. You know, sometimes you gotta let your art. Sometimes you gotta release uncomfortable stuff. Are you saying that we can't release these type of movies because there's a bunch of mass shootings? Like what exactly are you saying? That like white men look. I take the Dave Chappelle thing, right? Dave Chappelle once said about Donald Trump. The reason he don't talk about Donald Trump like people want him to is because that's ignoring the fact that there was 30 million white people that elected him. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I could talk about Donald Trump, but that really ain't solving nothing because there's 30 million white people that, like, elected him, right? That's kind of how I feel about this. That's kind of how I feel about that whole, like, is this the right time to release a movie, like, argument. It's like, there's always been crazy white dudes. I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about. Like this time for this movie is no different from any other time for this movie. This country is literally built on crazy psychopaths. I don't know what the hell y'all been. I don't know what the hell you thinking. But this country has always been filled with crazy white men with guns. Like this, that's always been the case. So So I just feels like that there's like a bad faith argument. You know what I'm saying? That somehow it glorifies this. It glorifies, crazy white men. I don't think this movie glorifies crazy white men at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Amanda, I need you to talk, Amanda.
No, I need you to stop being right then. I mean, so yeah, I
Now, put it this way: this would have been the wrong time to release this movie. If a guy went on if a guy like the week before Joker came out went on Jimmy Kimmel and shot him in the head, then maybe you hold the movie back for a couple of months. But just because it's about a lonely white dude on the fringes of society, and he has a gun in the Vigilante complex. You can release that any time, cause guess what? This crazy white man monkey show don't stop for nobody. So you just gotta kind of release your movie.
I mean, it's difficult for me to judge because I wasn't too into it, but this wasn't a particularly glamorous or romanticized portrayal of being a fringe member of society. Like, I couldn't really see this. This movie isn't saying that it's good to be a crazy white man with a gun.
But that's why the arguments behind it has been so perplexing to me, especially from the people from my side, right? You know what I'm saying? Especially from the people from my side. That's why because I know a lot of people haven't seen this movie. Then the people who have are like saying that, and I'm like, I look at this movie, I just don't get that. I don't want to be the Joker.
Yeah.
Like he has moments of triumph, but it's his moments of triumph. It ain't supposed to be for you. You know what I'm saying? When he stabbed the guy with the scissors, his coworker with the scissors, right, and he's dancing down the steps, that's for him. I'm not saying like, oh shit, yeah, that shit about to get real with the Joker. Like, I'm not saying that. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand for what it's for, and like, well, some people might take the wrong message from the movie. That could be any movie. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if people take the wrong message from this, once you release your art, that's gonna happen regardless. No matter what you make, no matter how like obvious you make it. Look, there are people who think Archie Bunker is a hero. There was people who think Archie Bunker is a hero, despite the fact Archie Bunker, for all his racism and homophobia, looked stupid every episode, right?
Yeah.
There are still people that took away from that Archie Bunker was right. You know what I'm saying?
Right, like there's people who watch Star Wars and think that the Empire is cool.
Exactly. Yeah, Empire kind of cool. But no. Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you something. The Empire is based on Nazi Germany and its iconography, right? If Nazi Germany didn't have anything else, it had a good marketing team. That's all I'm saying. If nothing
right, but you don't watch Star Wars and hope that they win.
No, I do not want them to win. I do not want them to win. Yeah, it's like the people who watch Breaking Bad and think Walter White is a good guy and hate Skyler because how dare Skyler stop Heisenberg from doing all his gangster shit.
No, I think that's a good point. Is that if you're concerned about the message that vulnerable people are going to take from a movie like this is a really strange time to start caring about it.
Right.
There are plenty of other situations where you could have decided to start caring. I mean, if this is the movie that starts a conversation about improving mental health services in this country, that would also be amazing. It's just a little bit difficult to believe if someone's criticizing this movie that that's their real motive.
There's a lot. But again, I just, Amanda, when I came back to Twitter, I told you I didn't want to follow nobody political, and that shit still found me. It's just... Huh?
Sorry.
It's just, you just can't escape it. And you know what? And it's funny, too. Because if anything, this movie is actually on the side of the little guy, if anything, right? right? You know what I'm saying? Because it's very much about eat the rich, right? It's very much it's almost an
I think
anti-fi movie.
it was not enough about Eat the Rich. It was I think that was very interesting politically for this movie to have Joker himself not really care or entirely understand what was going
But
on.
you know what though? That's what I think the genius of the movie is, right? Because like Alyssa, I think Alyssa writer director would have made the Joker almost kind of like a hero of this story and made him like the voice of the downtrodden. But this movie goes out the way and say like, nah, he's not that. Don't even try to, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
put that on him. You because people will try that, right? But he
Yeah.
says it point blank. No, I don't have any political motivations. This ain't why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck why they doing it. I'm doing it for this reason, for my own selfish, crazy ass reasons, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's smart of the movie. I don't understand why people don't quite. I don't understand the criticism. The people don't see that. You know what I'm saying? That like this movie absolutely. There's a version of this movie where the Joker is kind of a hero.
Yeah, and that maybe would have been a concern.
I will say, as much as I love this this is not really a comic book movie, and I like it for that reason. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't lie, the nerd in me got a bit of a chill when he met Bruce and Alfred.
Yeah.
Like it tingled like, ooh, Batman and the Joker. Like the nerd came out of me just a little bit. Like, oh shit. Like,
Okay,
like
there were groans in my theater.
really?
Yeah, people were like, "Oh."
But you know what though? They do it well though. It's nothing like there's a fan serving version of that, but they didn't go for that. You know what I'm saying? Put it this way, it in my opinion, right?
Hmm.
If you want to call this movie the Joker, that scene would be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't play off their history. You would have to know the history. Most people do know their history, but there's nothing in the scene itself. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's not talking to Bruce and all of a sudden a bat flies by or some shit like that. That
No, you're right. The scene where he meets Bruce was pretty well done and pretty tense. I think the one that got double groans was watching Bruce's parents die again.
yeah. Yeah, that's now that one on the other
And
hand.
that also looked like it was filmed by like the B unit or whatever. That was just like that felt like the
Todd Phillips,
studio came back and was like, "How are they going to know it's a Batman movie if we don't watch Martha die again? Make sure she's got a pearl necklace on."
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like Todd Phillips say, I'm not even bothering that. Like,
Yeah.
he got his assistant to do who always wanted to direct. Like
Yeah.
like, hey Phil, you want to go do it? Yes, go ahead. But no, you're right. Now that one was a bit groany. You know what I'm saying? But look, put it this way: you could have did it, but they framed it like it was a comic book movie. It's the only comic booky thing in the movie, right?
Yeah.
If you would have had them go down that aisle and get shot and just left it at that, it might could have worked. But
I would have loved to it have just been like an Easter egg in the background of the riot scenes.
well, you just see down the alleyway.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
you just like go down an alley and like you look down the alleyway for a second and you just see like a kid standing there with the two bodies of his parents and like all the nerds could be like, "Oh my gosh, do you think that was Bruce Wayne?"
right. But but like I did like the scene with them, and like that was Alfred, right? That was Alfred, right? That's
I think so. Whatever, I really did like that guy's energy though.
right. I was like, hey, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's Alfred. He got a British accent and he got on a butler outfit. If anybody gonna protect young Bruce Wayne,
Yeah.
it's gonna be Alfred, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I can see. Like, I almost want look. the people, the nerds I'm seeing, like, oh man, they ought to tie this into Batman somehow. Like, no, I don't want this to tie into Batman. Leave this movie special and away from that shit. Don't tie this to no comic book shit. Leave it alone. I don't want Joaquin Phoenix with a joy buzzer that kills people.
Yeah.
But what do you think of his performance? I know how you, but like, if you can just
Joaquin Phoenix is amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I've been obsessed with him since like Gladiator. There's no disputing that this is like, he's amazing.
Do you think he's Oscar worthy?
I think he single-handedly saved that movie. This movie with a lesser performance, all of the flaws and criticisms that we have would not have been able to right. Because it's a difficult movie, it's uncomfortable, it does raise some controversial ideas, even though we both ultimately agree that it's fine that the movie exists. But without him, it would not have been fine for the movie to exist.
Right.
He made it worth it.
Right. Do you particularly like any of the other performances in this movie? Like, is there anybody else that stands out besides him? Like, he's in every scene, so it's hard to like.
There weren't a lot of other characters. I mean,
I think the guy that played Thomas Wayne does a great Donald Trump impression.
Yeah, and I got a kind of a Jared Kushner vibe from the guy on the train who gets killed. There were some. They got people to play rich assholes pretty well.
You know what, let's talk about that scene a bit, because I think that scene is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a way, he was absolutely justified. It's based on. I think it's based on the Bernard. What's his name? Bernard Getz situation.
Okay.
Back like in the early '80s, where like this dude shot like 4 African American teens on the New York subway because he said they was beating them up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's based on that, but like he's actually kind of justified in shooting them, right? But he rightly understands that even though he's justified, he was never going to get a fair shake in court. You know what I'm saying? Like there's there's no way in the hell they would ever listen to his side. Yeah. And that's
that's definitely what's going on there.
And that's why when he kills the third guy, in the back, it's just like at that point he's just saving himself, right? I think that scene is really weird. I think that scene is really well done. What do you think about his nervous tick or where he can't stop laughing?
I found that really interesting. At first I felt like it was almost an attempt to make him sort of sympathetic. And then it seemed more like it was an attempt to make him almost sort of I guess I'm still not sure how I feel about it. Because it doesn't entirely succeed in making him like a sympathetic character, giving him this.
So this is why I noticed, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He only laughs when he doesn't want to, right? He laughs when he's sad, right? But if you notice, when he's at the comedy club, sitting there, like, looking at stand-up comedians, and he's taking notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know what is funny.
Right.
So he puts on a fake laugh and looks around because he thinks, is this how normal people act?
Yes.
So he's never actually happy in this movie. There's never, except for when he's murdering people, right? Like, the only release he gets, the only time he got any type of big dick energy is after he murders a person. You know what I'm saying? But any other time, he's trying to pretend to be normal. You know, it's that scene where he's like, you know, looking at the Robert De Niro show, and he's trying to like imitate the star coming out. Right? He kept looking at
Yeah.
the tape, and he's just like, he can't be normal. He's trying to be normal, and his fake laugh that he uses is just really interesting, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the fake laugh of him, like, okay, is this supposed to be funny? I guess I laugh right here, and it's almost, I don't know. It's just something. It's something
It's
I know.
he has a very like cargo cult understanding of what it means to be human. Like he's obviously just trying to pass for most of his life.
Right,
And
exactly,
we can tell. That's why we're uncomfortable with him the whole time.
exactly, right, and like he doesn't get those social cues, and it's just
But that scene in the, you're right, that scene in the comedy club was a really good one for pointing that out because he was trying to laugh, but he laughed at the wrong time.
right, right, because he doesn't understand it. Like he just,
Yeah.
it's, and also the, is it just me or like his physicality? Right, you, like he's like really skinny. Did he seem like a marionette puppet to you, or that's something I'm just bringing to it? Like, you know what I'm saying? He almost seemed like a marionette puppet in a way.
Um,
I,
I think that's a really cool, I think that's a really cool image.
like even like I said, when he's dancing, it seems like he's on strings almost. Like every time he dances 2 or 3 times in this movie,
Yeah.
and it seems like he has the movement of a marionette puppet. I'm not for sure that's on purpose, but like that's just what it seemed like to me. Like, and like just the way he contorts his body, there's a lot here for a movie that I will never see again.
Yeah.
Like I got all like the movie like you know, the Kings of Comedy with Robert De Niro and Jerry Lewis is like a big influence. You know, I know this. There's a dash of network
Ooh,
network.
okay.
There's a dash of network in here. Like I can see all the movie influences that they're going for, and I think he pulls them off really well. I also heard there's a criticism. They're like, oh, he's just ripping off better movies. And my argument for the people who say that is Quentin Tarantino be doing that his whole career, but we all love him. So I don't want to hear that shit. Like, but like, there's so much here, man, that I like that I'll just never see again. Now, did you know the girl was a figment of his imagination?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty obvious, right? Because
I mean, it was obvious even before the reveal.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like it was obvious like the first time she showed up and reacted to him the
Following,
way that he wanted to and not
right.
yeah.
So let me ask you: do you think it was all in his head? Because the ending of this movie is very interesting. Do you think?
So you're going like American Psycho on me, like at which point in the movie did we stop seeing any real events?
Well, I don't think that. But I think everything in American Psycho is real. I don't believe in that. I'm never one for it's all a dream. But
No, not it was all a dream, but like at some point the things that Patrick Bateman's doing like couldn't really have happened like in physical reality.
mm,
So at some point, like it's like, was he really chasing women around with a chainsaw? I don't know.
what is your interpretation of the ending?
Of Joker?
Yes.
Um, so I think the part where it gets most ambiguous is all right. So I think what I'm imagining is that uh, he's on the talk show
Right.
and he shoots the host, which does something to help trigger the riots. And he's arrested and being driven away. And then what we see is a scene where, the police car crashes and the rioters pull him out, and he's revived and celebrated, and then after that we do see him in Arkham again.
Mm-hmm.
So my feeling is that the extra scene with the rioters, was like kind of like metaphorical, that didn't actually happen.
Okay.
That was sort of his fantasy as he was being driven to the asylum. And that he sort of like was metaphorically resuscitated by the rioters and like came to own what he'd done, but not that he was like literally in the street with them.
Okay. That's a reading. I don't know what to make of it. I don't. If I have to say anything, it all happened, and
Okay.
and like it took place afterwards, or it honestly could have been a flashback to when he was in there before, because they do say he was in there before, right? They do say.
Yes. Yeah.
So like, it's either or. But when he does walk at the end, he has like bloody footprints.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's a dreamlike quality, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So the question is this then: if he does just get taken to jail, or if he does dies, right? So is he even the real Joker, or is he just the guy that will eventually inspire the real Joker?
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it too.
Because as we know, the Joker has no origin story.
Right.
So is this their way of being like, maybe this ain't the real Joker? But again, maybe he is the real Joker, and maybe everything we see is in his mind, and it's not the real story, because the Joker is fucking crazy, and he don't even know where the hell he comes from. Amanda.
Yeah.
Would you recommend this movie?
Not really.
Ah.
I don't know if you're like me and you enjoy Joaquin Phoenix and you want to be impressed by him, maybe. I would say that it's worth watching. I don't know if it's worth running out to the theater and seeing it immediately.
Okay.
I would say wait until you're like ready to watch it and do it on your own time. It's not like it being on a bigger screen isn't going to make it better. You don't have to see it in a theater so that you have the surround sound. Like, it's a heady movie, so see it on your own time.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah. Look, yes. No, look. As a person that loves movies,
yeah,
I have to recommend this movie. Just with caveats. That is going to challenge you. It's going to be off-putting, and you may not enjoy it. But just from a pure filmmaking standpoint, yeah, you kind of got to if you love movies. You kind of have to.
What about if you love comic books?
Probably not. like if you're expecting any type of like whiz bang moments, like the other example I could think of is Logan, right? Logan is another movie that takes its subject material really like seriously, but it also has those comic book moments in them, right? It also has those crowd pleasing moments in here. The Joker doesn't have any of that. The Joker is not that type of movie. Don't go in here expecting anything. Even that scene where I said the Joker meets Bruce Wayne, it's not what you're thinking. It's nothing like. So if I tell you like this, if you don't read comic books, but you're a big MCU fan, maybe not. Like if you come here, this is just some silly comic book movie. No, and do not, for the love of God, bring your kids. Do not.
Yeah, no kids.
Again, I don't know if I ever told.
I would say the minimum age for this movie should be like 30. This is rated 30 for only disillusioned adults.
Did I tell the story about the parents that brought their kids to the Watchmen movie?
Oh no!
You know what? I'll tell that story whenever we talk about Watchmen. But that's a funny story. But yeah, do not take your kids to this. This is not that type of movie. Do not take your first date. If you're on a first date, don't take them to go see this movie. You need to be in a well-committed relationship if y'all gonna go see this movie together. Look. I'm gonna be a man. You ain't getting no pussy if you take a woman to go see this movie. You can forget it. You can go home. You're going home by yourself.
That is a crucial warning.
You know, I didn't have to say that. I'm sorry.
No, you've done a public service. That is actually a really great way to explain what kind of a movie it is.
It is not a crowd-pleasing movie whatsoever. But yes, it is kind of a masterpiece. And if you enjoy movies just for the sake of a movie, yeah, go see it. Just know you may not have a good time watching it. If you love Taxi Driver, go see it. So yeah, that's my that's our show. Amanda, what are we reading in a couple of weeks?
So we are going to be doing more of the same. We're looking at Batman: The Long Halloween.
I just want to say, I'm supposed to be letting you talk, but I just want to say, this is by far heads and shoulders above my favorite Batman story of all time, and I've been holding off a long time reading this. So reading it for the show. So I'm really excited that we're finally doing it. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No, I'm excited. I'm more excited for it now. So we're looking at The Long Halloween, and I will also try to be ready to discuss the Brian Azzarello Joker, right?
Yes. Drawn by Brian Azzarello written by Brian Azzarello, drawn by Liba Mayho. They have a series of Batman books. They're famous now for Bat Dick a few months ago in Batman Down. So it's that creative team, yes. And if they
I'm looking forward to that.
And if they want to reach us, where could they?
We are on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52, like the number of weeks in the year or the new 52. They can also email us, comicbookclub52@gmail.com. And we are on Facebook as the Comic Book Club, which makes it easy to share our podcast with your friends.
Yes, it is. So, that's it. This has been a trying episode, a long episode, but I am Jamil Payne.
I'm still Amanda Comey.
And we are out.